Okay, let's get started. Um, just a quick one today. Not a lot going on in the market really, but we did see a bit of downside yesterday. So thought I'd start today just an update on this chart here because I think this is probably telling a bit of a story at the moment. Basically, we haven't seen any drop off yet in the BTC longs. They are holding this level. They're not increasing a huge amount. They're not decreasing a huge amount. So it's kind of neutral at the moment. I actually think that if we do see more of a drop in Bitcoin, you're not going to see these guys actually take profit or anything. I think you're actually going to see them build their positions. So the fact that they haven't taken profit at this level suggests that there's quite a few people thinking that Bitcoin will go higher still. And look, they tend to be sort of right. As you can see, they start to drop off as they start to get into profit. So Bitcoin's sort of bottoming out around here. I'll just get rid of the ETH longs to make that less confusing. So this is Bitcoin price in the blue and the longs in the bottom chart here. So as you can see, once it bottoms out, they're sort of peaking in terms of new people opening longs. And as they start to get more and more into profit, because some of them started building their longs around here, so they're not really getting into profit or that much profit until they're starting this leg up. So that's when they start to actually take their profits and reduce the positions. So look, there's not a hell of a lot of conviction here either. Like, we don't have a sharp increase like that, which we saw before this last pump. So take that as you will. For the most part, people have just been dumping positions and not really increasing their positions much during this whole run up from 20k. So yeah, it's a bit 50-50, but at this stage it's sort of pointing more towards more upside on Bitcoin. So jumping into this chart here, I'll just turn on, sorry, I'm on the weekly, go back to the daily. Again, we touched on this yesterday. Yesterday it was looking like potentially closing a little bit higher and being a breakout of this Gaussian band. We've still got another 2 hours left. If we push up from here and we do close above, then that would actually suggest more upside, but it's still a bit flip-floppy at the moment. If you haven't seen it yet, there's a new indicator on TradingView which is quite interesting. So for each candle, it actually gives you an idea of the value of longs and the value of shorts that have been taken in each candle. At the moment, the delta is to the downside, but it's kind of, again, it's kind of flip-flopping a bit in each direction. We are starting to increase in terms of volume, overall volume. So how this finishes in terms of the delta will be interesting. If it does finish positive and we're on decent volume, then yeah, it'll be suggesting that we might be going higher. So yeah, anyway, that's of interest, I think. What I make of this is it's kind of undecided, the market still. It'd be good to start seeing some more volume coming through. For some reason my moving average has come off that. both the 20 and the 50 moving averages are still to the downside, although this has been a decent volume. If we do still close inside here, then I'd be favouring the downside a little bit more. I think I posted the other day that I mustn't save my chart. Okay. There are some key moving averages that are sort of sitting around that 67k mark, and then back down into the, I think there's one around the 65.5, and then around that 64 level as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one. We're kind of in that no man's land at the moment. If we go down onto the shorter time frames, so this is 15-minute time frame. We've just cleared back above the 800 EMA on the 15-minute, which is the 200 on the 1 hour, and obviously we're clearing the 200 on the 15-minute, which is the 50 on the 1 hour. Increasing volume, still not huge, but increasing. So we might, given that the Bollinger Bands are closing, we'll probably just see a test of this top Bollinger Band, and then we'll have to see how it goes from there. But given the Bollingers are contracting, I'm not expecting any major moves anytime soon, at least in the next few hours. But this level here, the 67 level, it's interesting that it's bounced with a fair bit of volume at that level. We had the same sort of bounce over here as well. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, at the moment it's still postured mostly to the downside on the longer time frames. But yeah, well, I'll be watching the top Bollinger Band reasonably closely today. But yeah, I think I'm still expecting a little more downside, to be honest. If we get across of the 200 across this 800 EMA, then yeah, I'd definitely be quite wary of the downside. But right now, again, kind of no man's land. But by the way, on the shorter time frames, I tend to use, well, actually on most time frames, I tend to use the Bollinger Bands with a 90 length and a 2 standard deviation. Just they tend to give me a better idea of breakouts and when breakouts are finishing. Just a bit more responsive. So it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, levels wise, there's just not a lot to go off really. There's some other indicators that I'm running have got a power sell signal happening at the moment. That may be invalidated soon if we break back above this, but in general, I think things are slowly turning to the downside. It's just a matter, like Bitcoin's renowned for breaking out of those sort of patterns. But yeah, it's, again, hard to short a dull market unless you're on the really short time frames. It's a tough one to short it from here, put it that way, on the daily. The S&P 500 is pretty basically flat at the moment, which doesn't help. So it's done something pretty similar to Bitcoin today in terms of just the shape of the candle. It's floating well above that gas-in channel, so again, there's it's a tough one. It's probably the shorter term time frames you want to be paying attention to at the moment if you're going to be trading. It looks like we've probably topped out in terms of interest, in terms of retail interest at least anyway. So, sorry, not retail, institutional interest. The volumes are still not there. Today's, I think that's closed, isn't it? Yeah. So that's closed up slightly on the previous day, but and you could see that as a fairly bullish sign. It's a bullish hammer, but just on very low volumes. So just be careful. Keep stop losses tight if you're going long, and yeah, probably keep your trading on short time frames, I would say. Again, if we do get a leg up, this sort of level here, 74 is going to be resistance again. And then I think somewhere between 78 and 81 is probably going to be where it would top out. And we'll probably get some more sideways if we got to that level. That's about it for today. Let's have a quick look at... Oh, that's interesting. So typically if you're getting divergences between high yield junk and the stock market, that's not a great sign. So we've actually had a reversal candle on high yield bonds there. We've broken below the middle band of the Gaussian channel. That's probably fairly bearish actually for the overall stock market. Means a bit of risk off. TLT's dropping, which isn't super surprising. But we did have a fair drop on the US 2-year 10-year yesterday as well. Looks like we might have formed a double top here. So again, keep an eye on that one. Again, if we get below that one level, that's when we start to panic. We're still a fair way off that at the moment. Aussie dollar, US dollar is hovering as well. Gold is pushing up again, which is interesting. On a fair bit of volume the other day too. So that's interesting. That's a fact with coppers not getting as much interest now, volume-wise. Today will be fairly critical. If we see this as a dead cat bounce on copper, then it'll probably come back down, and the stock market will be probably coming back down with it. They call it Dr. Copper for a reason. Generally, if copper's on a good run, you can expect upside to the stock market. If it's dropping, then it's normally a downside for the stock market. Just have a quick look. Okay, so we've got a little bit of skew drop. Typically, if we see the skew dropping a hell of a lot, that's when you will see downside in the market. It's not a huge signal yet. If we see that drop back sort of down into these levels, then I'd be suggesting that the stock market's going to come down and Bitcoin will probably come down with it. So I guess it's kind of, there is a downside bias, but I also know that in this particular situation, there is typically upside. Jesus, I'm on the big screen, Joshua? So yeah, there is a bit of a downside bias, but in these sort of market conditions, there can be a decent amount of upside still. So I'm favouring the downside over the next couple of days, to be honest, still. Yeah. It's just a matter of whether it's just a sort of a chop sideways and then another leg up, or whether we actually get a decent pullback into these sort of regions. But yeah, I don't see anything as being particularly broken yet. Percentage stocks above the 50-day average. Typically once that turns down like that, it does keep going down. So again, that's probably bearish sign. Where's my liquidity indicator? There it is. Central banks are reducing their liquidity a little bit as well. They certainly haven't come in to prop up the market yet. So again, that's kind of a bearish indicator as well. But it's not super bearish. Like none of these things are super bearish. Nothing's saying, okay, we're going to drop a huge amount. It's more, okay, we might get a bit of correction, maybe a bit of sideways here before we get another leg up. Obviously in trading that could change on any given news to come out. And this is the pain in the ass of the thing, because NVIDIA's skewing the results a bit. So the RSP is probably the one we should be looking at, to be honest, the equal weighted S&P 500. And it has actually dropped. So if you compare that to the SPY is actually slightly up on yesterday. And I can almost guarantee you that's probably mainly because of NVIDIA. I'll have a quick look at a couple of the others as well. Google's up as well a little bit, no sort of breakout levels there, but that's interesting. Who else? Tesla. Tesla's pretty flat. Who else have we got? Meta. Meta's down a little bit. Potential bounce off the Gaussian channel there too. A quick check of Apple. Fuck, what's the ticket for Apple? I should know that. Shit. Could have sworn I had that on. Oh, there it is. AAPL. So Apple's down a bit today. So it's a mixed market. There's a bit of indecision. There's no real direction yet to be gleaned from this, I think. But the fact that the equal weight is down, that's a little bearish. I think we have closed below that other candle too. Yeah, it looks like we've closed below the close of that candle. So probably a little bit more downside on that to be expected. So yeah, again, not huge downside expectations, but it is sort of postured that way now. Unfortunately, the breakout we were hoping for yesterday on Bitcoin never really happened from that Gaussian channel. So there you go. That'll do for today. Have a good day and good luck.